Mark Twain has touched and affected many of our lives in countless ways. Before we jump into Mark Twain's last great revelation, you need to know a few things about him and the thing that brought him to us and took him away. Perhaps the US most famous author, Mark Twain is known in history for his whimsical tales that reveal the heart of Middle America. His novels, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, are amongst the best American texts ever written, hailed for the quality of their characters and the larger social criticisms deftly woven into the fibers of the tale. To understand Mark Twain as an author, it is first required to understand him as a man. His experience with the Mississippi River provides a substantial amount of biographical information, chronicling his time as a steamboat pilot in his youth. Here, Samuel Clemens devised his pen name, Mark Twain, being the oft-heard call of the ship's leadsman, signaling that the water below was at least 12 feet deep and safe to cross. His memoir, Life on the Mississippi, first gives a history of the river as explored by Europeans and Americans, then tells of his time apprenticing on the river cruisers. With this work, the reader learns about one of the author's most foundational experiences, as navigator, which denotes Twain's very style of storytelling, an exploration of the expanding world all around him. In 1909, Clemens, known by his pen name, Mark Twain, said, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet. The Almighty has said, no doubt, now here are these two unaccountable freaks, they came in together, they must go out together." Clemens was indeed born just after Halley's Comet appeared in 1835, and he died of a heart attack one day after it appeared at its brightest in 1910. While this association, combined with Clemens' foretelling of his own death, is probably unique, Halley's Comet has been the subject of a string of predictions since 1705. That was the year that Sir Edmund Halley first realized that comets sighted in 1531, 1607, and 1682 were all the same comet. In his A Synopsis of the Astronomy of Comets, Halley stated that the comets all appeared very similar in their orbit and various other parameters. From his conclusion, he calculated that it would reappear in 1758. Halley died before he was able to see his prediction come true. As reliable as ever, the comet appeared late that year and reached perihelion when it emerged from the far side of the Sun in 1759. The comet was named Halley's Comet in honor of the man who had discovered its pattern. Because of its orbit, Halley's Comet always shows up around every 76 years, just as Halley calculated. However, due to the gravitational pull of the planets that it passes, it's sometimes a year or two off the mark. The comet has, in fact, been at the center of a few historical events. For instance, William the Conqueror took the comet as a good omen when it showed up just before the 1066 invasion of England. The comet was memorialized on the massive Bayeux tapestry which was made after the invasion. The tapestry shows people celebrating the crowning of King Harold, terrified of the comet soaring above. Below King Harold is a fleet of ships, hinting at the coming Norman conquest. We can be fairly certain that the 1066 comet was indeed Halley's Comet because of one Eilmer of Malmesbury. Eilmer was a monk born around 980 AD who was able to see the comet twice in his lifetime. The first was in 989, and he had a feeling it was a bad omen. Soon after its appearance, his town was attacked by the Danes. He lived to see the comet again in 1066, and it appears that Eilmer, at least, saw the correlation between the 989 comet and the 1066 comet. However, others didn't pick up on the pattern until Halley in 1705. Writing following the comet's second appearance, Eilmer said, You've come, have you? You've come, you source of tears to many mothers, you evil. I hate you. It is long since I saw you, but as I see you now you are much more terrible, for I see you brandishing the downfall of my country. I hate you. In 1222, the comet passed by Earth again, heralding similar doom. This time, Genghis Khan started marching west. Apparently, he thought of the comet, which was heading west the same as he did, as his personal star. Of course, the invasion of Europe would leave millions of people dead, not such a great omen for them. Fast forward back to 1910. The death of Clemens was, of course, a sad event for the literary world, but the year could be seen as an omen ushering in a new age on Earth. That year, the first photograph was taken of Halley's Comet, and between that sighting and the next in 1986, mankind would advance technologically in wondrous ways, far more rapidly than at any other known time in our history. Of course, we also waged war among ourselves at a baffling scale a couple times, and even came extremely close to possibly destroying most of the life on Earth. On the flip side, around the same time we were nearly destroying ourselves, illustrating the need for humans to spread out among the heavens. We took our first steps away from this giant space vessel known as Earth. Further, for one all too brief moment, humanity was united in 1969 as we watched the first human step out onto the surface of the Moon. When Halley's Comet arrived again in 1986, the first observation of the comet from space was made. This turned out to be fortunate, because the view from Earth was very disappointing. In fact, according to a study published in the Royal Astronomical Society of Canada Journal, the 1986 view of the comet was the worst in about 2,000 years. This was compounded by the fact that light pollution made it impossible for many to see it even with binoculars. However, the Halley's Armada, as the fleet of spaceships sent up to observe the comet from space was called, was able to snap good quality pictures of the comet, even capturing pictures of its nucleus. On the advances, NASA commented, it was inevitable that this most famous of all comets would receive unprecedented attention, but the actual magnitude of the effort has surprised even most of those involved in it. Unfortunately, NASA itself suffered a tragedy in attempting to view Halley's Comet from space. Part of the mission of the ill-fated Challenger was to observe the comet, but of course it suffered a rocket malfunction and exploded just minutes after takeoff, killing everyone on board. The next time Halley's Comet will swing by Earth is in 2061, being at its brightest in July of that year. Thankfully, it is expected that it will be much brighter than in 1986. Perhaps Twain was wrong about The Mysterious Stranger. The Mysterious Stranger is the final novel attempted by the American author Mark Twain. He worked on it periodically from 1897 through 1908. The body of work is a serious social commentary by Twain addressing his ideas of the moral sense and the damned human race. Twain wrote multiple versions of the story, each is unfinished and involves a supernatural character called Satan or Number 44. The first substantial version is entitled The Chronicle of Young Satan and relates the adventures of Satan, the sinless nephew of the biblical Satan, in Esseldorf, an Austrian village in the year 1702. Twain wrote this version between November 1897 and September 1900. Esseldorf is German for Assville or Donkey Town. The second substantial version Twain attempted to write is known as Schoolhouse Hill. It is set in the U.S. and involves the familiar characters Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer and their adventures with Satan, referred to in this version as Number 44, New Series 864962. Schoolhouse Hill is the shortest of the three versions. Twain began writing it in November 1898 and, like the St. Petersburg fragment, set it in the fictional town of St. Petersburg. The third version, called Number 44, The Mysterious Stranger, being an ancient tale found in a jug and freely translated from the jug, also known as the print shop version, returns to Austria, this time in the year 1490, not long after the invention of printing. It tells of Number 44's mysterious appearance at the door of a print shop and his use of heavenly powers to expose the futility of mankind's existence. This version also introduces an idea Twain was toying with at the end of his life involving a duality of the self, composed of the waking self and the dream self. Twain explores these ideas through the use of duplicates, copies of the print shop workers made by number 44. This version contains an actual ending, however, the version is not considered as complete as Twain would have intended. Twain wrote this version between 1902 and 1908. Twain wrote the St. Petersburg fragment in September 1897. It was set in the fictional town of St. Petersburg, a name Twain often used for Hannibal, Missouri. Keep this in mind. Now allow me to paint a strange picture. There should be no question that Twain knew things. As many of you know, works of fiction plays a big role in the work that Paranoid Times does. Consider this your ancient tale found in a jug and freely translated from the jug, a prediction from the future, written in the past for the future. We all know that this run for president has been a strange one. There is something new every day. There is something evil lurking. The media has been corrupted. Their debate are full of lies. Mark Twain knew this would be the turning point for the human race. There has been 43 people that have served as President of the United States. This includes Barack Obama, currently serving his second term. Barack Obama is most often listed as the 44th president. This is because Grover Cleveland is counted as both the 22nd and 24th president. He was elected, then lost, then won again 4 years later. The next person will be the 44th president. Mark Twain called the supernatural character in The Mysterious Stranger Satan, or number 44. A few of you may say it's just a number, but the rabbit hole goes much deeper. This St. Petersburg fragment. This marked the day of deception for Hillary Clinton's campaign. She had the media Photoshop a crowd image for her St. Petersburg, Florida speech. This was to trick the American public into believing she had more supporters than she really did. The prime thought in politics: people follow other people. The Coliseum venue holds approximately 4,000 people. Hillary Clinton didn't come close to filling it. Only a couple of hundred people showed up. She wanted people to think that there was an excess of 4,000 without seating. This is what she wanted you to see. And this is what really happened. At this point, the action of the media is beyond ridiculous. Some in the media even note their own embarrassing behavior. To quote, "The polls shows that journalism is one of the least respected professions in the country, and with Trump calling out media organizations for their bias, widespread slanted reporting is bound to reinforce this point and to backfire. Trump's campaign is throwing down the gauntlet to the political class. If journalists are seen as the mouthpiece of that class, they may soon find themselves covering Trump's inauguration." Now back to Mark Twain. The third version, it tells of number 44's mysterious appearance at the door of a print shop and his use of heavenly powers to expose the futility of mankind's existence. Twain explores these ideas through the use of duplicates, copies of the print shop workers made by number 44. Photoshop and print shop still a coincidence? What about the use of duplicates, copies by number 44? Now let's jump to Hannibal, Missouri. Both Bill and Hillary campaigned hard in Hannibal. As another pointer Mark Twain used was Hannibal. Hannibal is the only place in the world that has the only lighthouse that was lit by 3 presidents. The Mark Twain Lighthouse was dedicated in 1935 to celebrate the 100th anniversary of Mark Twain's birth. It has been lit by 3 U.S. presidents, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, John F. Kennedy, and Bill Clinton. Beautiful view of the Mississippi River. However, it's a major workout to get to it. 244 steps to the top. Satan has been called the father of lies, in this case the mother of lies. Number 44, new series 864,962. So what about the numbers you say 864,962? Break it down. 86. MSNBC, the famously liberal news organization, held a poll in the wake of Hillary's incident. After more than 5,000 responses, the poll ended with 86% of those surveyed believing that Hillary Clinton should end her bid for the presidency and drop out of the race altogether. This did not hurt her campaign, but helped it by showing she was okay and able to work past her sickness. She showed strength, and the public took to it like a moth to the flame. 49. Trump campaign details 49 blistering allegations about Hillary Clinton. 1. Clinton trade deals are disastrous. Trump's campaign argues the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, which was enacted by President Bill Clinton, and the Trans-Pacific Partnership, TPP, which is currently awaiting a vote in Congress and had support from Hillary Clinton, cause mass job losses in the United States, especially in the manufacturing industry. 2. Clinton lied about her landing in Bosnia. In 2008, First Lady Hillary Clinton recalled a 1996 trip as First Lady to Bosnia. She was supposed to meet with families of U.S. soldiers, but claimed upon landing she was under sniper fire and had to run with her head down instead of attending a greeting ceremony. An Associated Press report from 1996 detailing the eve of her arrival, however, made no mention of this incident. In fact, a CBS News video later revealed she was under no visible duress, greeted instead on the tarmac by a child who offered her a copy of a poem. 3. Clinton performed favors for donors as Secretary of State. Trump argues Clinton has used the Clinton Foundation as a way to fundraise where donors can gain access to political favors. He cites Raj Fernando, who donated between $1 million and $5 million and was appointed as International Security Advisor to the State Department by Cheryl Mills, Clinton's chief of staff. He also details favors given to foreign leaders and Clinton Foundation donors such as the Sultan of Oman, Indian politician Amar Singh, and Russians Uranium One. 4. The Clintons made millions from speeches to special interests. Trump hit Clinton over her big money speeches to Wall Street, something her Democratic challenger Senator Bernie Sanders, IVT, also would use to criticize her during the 2016 Democratic primary, specifically for not releasing the transcripts of the secret speeches. The Clintons made $153 million since 2011 giving speeches to special interests such as foreign governments, CEOs, and lobbyists. 5. Clinton supported her husband's disastrous NAFTA policy. As First Lady and again in 2003, Clinton praised NAFTA in her book. However, the Economic Policy Institute blames NAFTA for a loss of 700,000 jobs as of 2010. 6. Clinton supported China's entrance into the WTO. Trump's campaign cites a television appearance on CNN in 2000 where Clinton says normalizing trade relations would allow U.S. companies to compete with China. I think it is in the interests of America and American workers that we provide the option for China to go into the WTO, Clinton stated. Right now, we are trading with China. We have a huge trade deficit with China. The agreement that has been negotiated between our two countries would open their markets to us in a way that they are not yet open, and in fact, for many large manufactured products, like automobiles, we would have the first chance to really get in and compete in that marketplace. 7. Since Hillary-backed trade agreements it up nearly one-third of America's manufacturing jobs have disappeared. Trump argues that because of China's entrance into the WTO in 2001, by 2013 the trade deficit with China skyrocketed and 3.2 million U.S. jobs were lost. 8. The trade deficit with China soared under Clinton as Secretary of State. Trump says America's trade deficit with China increased 40% while Clinton was Secretary of State. 9. China stole hundreds of billions of dollars in intellectual property during Clinton tenure at state. Trump's campaign points to a 2013 report by the Independent Commission on the Theft of American Intellectual Property, which revealed that the U.S. lost $300 billion annually from American intellectual property, IP, rights having been stolen. 10. Clinton gave China millions of jobs and grew rich in return. According to the Economic Policy Institute, after the U.S. normalized trade relations with China as Clinton supported 3.2 million U.S. jobs were displaced. Trump also points to a Washington Post article detailing how Bill Clinton received $56.3 million from speeches delivered in foreign countries including China. 11. The Clintons profited from speeches to Chinese interests while she was negotiating with China. Trump cited Breitbart News editor Peter Schweizer's book Clinton Cash during his speech, reading, "Here is a quote from the book, 'At the center of U.S. policy toward China was Hillary Clinton. At this critical time for U.S. China relations, Bill Clinton gave a number of speeches that were underwritten by the Chinese government and its supporters. These funds were paid to the Clintons' bank account directly, while Hillary was negotiating with China on behalf of the United States. 12. Clinton supported TPP, which will destroy jobs. Bloomberg reports that during her time as Secretary of State, Clinton helped draft the TPP trade deal, and CNN notes that she delivered at least 45 public speeches supporting the deal. The Economic Policy Institute believes the TPP, which is a trade pact involving 11 nations, will eliminate more than 2 million jobs in the United States. 13. Clinton deleted the TPP record from her book and 30,000 emails. According to the Trump campaign, in Clinton's memoir Hard Choices, she wrote favorably in support of the TPP and about her hard work negotiating the deal during her time as Secretary of State, but according to the International Business Times, a recent paperback edition of Hard Choices omitted her earlier TPP reference. Adding to the action of deleting information, Trump also cites Clinton's private, personal email server where she conducted her business as Secretary of State and how she deleted, wiping the server clean, of her emails. 14. Clinton will adopt TPP. This is the latest Clinton cover-up and it doesn't change anything. If she is elected president, she will adopt the Trans-Pacific Partnership and we will lose millions of jobs and our economic independence for good, Trump challenged in his speech. 15. Clinton will betray workers on trade. Trump cites Clinton's flip-flop on the TPP, the Korea deal and the Colombia deal to reveal her inconsistency on international trade. 16. Clinton's foreign policy has cost Americans thousands of lives, trillions of dollars, and unleashed ISIS across the world. On this assertion, Trump points to Clinton's original vote to support the war in Iraq, but then subsequent support of President Obama's plan to withdraw forces, citing a Reuters report that Operation Iraqi Freedom cost trillions in taxpayer dollars. Trump also questions Clinton's decision on how to handle ISIS and her intervention into Libya. 17. Among Clinton's victims was Ambassador Chris Stevens. Trump blasted Clinton over the 2012 terrorist attack in Benghazi, Libya, where 4 Americans, including Ambassador Chris Stevens, were murdered after the State Department under Clinton's watch denied numerous requests for increased security. 18. Clinton was at home sleeping while attacks in Benghazi continued. He was left helpless to die as Hillary Clinton soundly slept in her bed. That's right. When the phone rang, as per the commercial, at 3 o'clock in the morning, Hillary Clinton was sleeping, Trump stated during his speech, pointing to a report from factcheck.org that revealed Clinton said she decided to leave the State Department and work from home the night of the Benghazi attack. 19. Ambassador Stevens and his staff in Libya made hundreds of requests for increased security and were denied. The State Department denied numbers of requests for additional security in Benghazi during the months leading up to the attack. 20. Clinton lied about a video causing the deaths of Americans in Benghazi. Trump cites Clinton's remarks on September 12, 2012 over the deaths in Benghazi, where she blamed the attack on a YouTube video. However, the night of the attack, Clinton emailed her daughter Chelsea Clinton and said the attack came from an al-Qaeda-like group, according to NBC News. Additionally, according to a State Department release, Clinton reportedly told the Egyptian Prime Minister that the attack in Benghazi had nothing to do with the film but rather was a planned attack, not a protest. 21. In 4 years Clinton managed to single-handedly destabilize the Middle East and hand over Libya to ISIS. Trump criticized Clinton for intervening in Libya without resolving how the country would be governed after Gaddafi was removed, and points to ISIS increasing its presence in Libya following the intervention. 22. Iran is now the dominant Islamic power in the Middle East and is on the road to a nuclear weapon, thanks to Clinton. Trump expresses criticism over Clinton's support of the Iran deal, where the U.S. is giving billions to Iran and allowing sanctions relief where its economy could revitalize. 23. Hillary has supported regime change in Syria, leading to one of the bloodiest civil wars and giving ISIS a launching pad to the West. Trump argues that Clinton's support of a regime change in Syria resulted in ISIS obtaining territory gains. 24. Clinton helped force out a friendly regime in Egypt. Trump argued, she helped force out a friendly regime in Egypt and replace it with the radical Muslim Brotherhood. The Egyptian military has retaken control, but Clinton has opened the Pandora's box of radical Islam. 25. Clinton's announced timetable for withdrawal from Iraq allowed ISIS to rush in and fill the void. The Trump campaign lists several news headlines where the Obama administration stated their plan for withdrawal, providing dates, and as a result, American and Iraqi analysts said the Qaeda franchise is shifting its tactics and strategies, like attacking Iraqi security forces in small squads to exploit gaps left by the departing American troops and to try to reignite sectarian violence in the country, according to the New York Times in 2011. 26. Clinton learned nothing from Iraq. Trump argues the lessons from Iraq were ignored by Clinton, who, once she became Secretary of State, pushed the intervention into Libya, citing French Ambassador Gerard Araud, who said, "It was the same mistake you made in Iraq," in reference to Libya. 27. Clinton refuses to acknowledge the threat posed by radical Islam. Trump took a swipe at Clinton, as he has Obama, for not identifying terrorism as radical Islam. 28. Clinton supports a 550% increase in Syrian refugees. Trump points to an appearance on CBS's Face the Nation, where Clinton said she thinks Obama's plan to allow 10,000 Syrian refugees into the U.S. wasn't enough. "Look, we're facing the worst refugee crisis since the end of World War II, and I think the United States has to do more, and I would like to see us move from what is a good start with 10,000 to 65,000 and begin immediately to put into place the mechanisms for vetting the people that we would take in," stated Clinton. 29. Hundreds of immigrants and their children have been recently charged with terrorism. Trump cites a Fox News report that revealed congressional data suggests hundreds of terror plans in the U.S. were stopped since September 11, 2001, and at least 380 were foreign-born. 30. Clinton policy is motivated by 1,000 foreign donations that weren't disclosed with the State Department. Trump points to a 2015 report by Ken Silverstein in Harper's Magazine which notes, the Clinton Foundation is a professionally structured money laundering operation. 31. Bill Clinton was paid $750,000 from a telecom company facing State Department sanctions while Hillary was Secretary of State, and was subsequently spared. The Trump campaign cites the book Clinton Cash, detailing the Swedish telecom giant Ericsson that came under pressure from the United States for selling equipment to oppressive governments that would allegedly use the equipment to control their people. 32. Clinton's State Department approved the transfer of 20% of America's uranium holdings to Russia, while investors funneled $145 million to the Clinton Foundation. Trump again references Clinton Cash, which reveals a connection between the United States uranium holdings with Russia's uranium to $145 million in donations to the Clinton Foundation. 33. Hillary Clinton appointed a top donor to a sensitive national security board, despite his having no credentials. Trump argues that Rajiv Fernando, who donated between $1 million and $5 million to the Clinton Foundation, was appointed by Secretary of State Hillary Clinton to the International Security Board although he didn't have international security credentials, according to ABC News. The Washington Examiner reported that the State Department under Clinton's watch then rushed top-secret security clearance for Fernando. 34. Clinton accepted gifts from the government of Brunei as Secretary of State as Brunei pushed Sharia law. Hillary Clinton accepted $58,000 in jewelry from the government of Brunei when she was Secretary of State plus millions more for her foundation. The Sultan of Brunei has pushed oppressive Sharia law, including the punishment of death by stoning for being gay. The government of Brunei also stands to be one of the biggest beneficiaries of Hillary's Trans-Pacific Partnership, which she would absolutely approve if given the chance, Trump alleged in his speech, citing donations to the Clinton Foundation and investigative reports from the Washington Free Beacon. 35. Hillary took $25 million from Saudi Arabia, where being LGBT is punishable by death. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia donated more than $10 million to the Clinton Foundation. Homosexuals are legally stoned to death in Saudi Arabia, and women in Saudi Arabia are violently discriminated against. 36 Hillary took millions from Kuwait, Qatar, Oman, and other countries that abuse women and the LGBT community. Trump argues that the state of Kuwait, which was cited by the State Department in 2012 for human rights problems, donated at least $5 million to the Clinton Foundation. Both Oman and Qatar, which were also noted by the State Department for human rights practices against women, donated at least $1 million to the Clinton Foundation. 37 Clinton illegally used a private email server while at the State Department. Trump cites 2005 State Department regulations that prohibited the use of a private, personal email server for government business to support his allegation that Clinton's conduct as Secretary of State where she used a private email server was illegal. 38 Clinton's emails were easily hacked by foreign governments. In this allegation, Trump cites an Associated Press report titled, Clinton server's software had hacking risk, which notes, 2 such hacking scans occurred in 2012 from a Serbian computer looking for accessible doors or ports into the server. Fox News has reported about a Romanian hacker who claims he hacked Clinton. 39 Clinton deleted 33,000 emails. Trump cites Judicial Watch's Tom Fitton, who in an interview with The Hill, said, she didn't want to be held accountable for her conduct in office. The Hill reported, Fitton told The Hill that he expects the government will eventually review the approximately 30,000 emails that Clinton claimed to have deleted from her server because they were personal in nature. 40 Clinton's private emails could be used as a blackmail file for foreign governments. In this assertion, Trump cites Forbes' Paul Roderick Gregory, who reported in 2016 the Russian intelligence community supposedly knew about Clinton's private server since 2013. 41 Clinton will pursue an open borders policy. Trump points to Clinton's own immigration plan on her website as well as a Vanity Fair article noting, in short, under Clinton's policy, if you manage to sneak across the border illegally and make it into a city, you won't be removed. You could call that open borders, except it's messy. It's more like a free-for-all. 42 Minorities will be hurt most from Clinton's policies. Trump argues Clinton's plan to resettle foreign refugees into the U.S. will cost billions of dollars and that increased immigration will hurt American workers' wages. He also notes the Bureau of Labor Statistics data that shows a record-high unemployment rate for both African Americans and Hispanics. 43 Sergeant Mendoza Brendam died because of the immigration policies supported by Hillary Clinton. Trump argues that open border policies, which Clinton supports, result in crimes such as the murder of Sergeant Mendoza Brendam by an illegal immigrant who had previously been charged with other crimes in Colorado, but was never deported. 44 For the amount of money Hillary Clinton wants to spend on refugees, we could rebuild every inner city in America. Trump, citing a Breitbart News article, says the cost of resettling 10,000 refugees is $6.5 billion, which brings Clinton's plans into the hundreds of billions, when taking into account lifetime benefits. 45 Clinton's immigration agenda will keep them poor, unemployed Americans out of work, and hurt minorities. Trump cites the Center for Immigration Studies, which reports immigration lowers American workers' wages by roughly $400 billion. 46 Clinton will appoint judges who will abolish the Second Amendment. Trump challenges that if elected president, Clinton will appoint liberal activist judges who would support gun control measures. He cites her previous statement that Australia's gun ban program was worth considering in America. 47 Obamacare is a job-killing disaster. On this assertion, Trump cites a Joint Committee on Taxation report and the Congressional Budget Office noting that the Affordable Care Act implements $859.7 billion in taxes on small businesses and innovation, as well as investments. 48 Real wages haven't increased for America workers. Trump argues that when considering inflation, a 2014 Pew Research Center analysis showed, today's average hourly wage has just about the same purchasing power as it did in 1979. 49. Clinton's regime of taxation, regulation, and open borders will destroy jobs and drive down wages. Trump argues that several reviews of Clinton's tax plan by the Tax Foundation, a tax policy and research organization, suggest her plan would lower the size of the economy and drive down income. He also argues that according to the Center for Immigration Studies, illegal immigration lowers American workers' wages by at least $99 billion each year. Breitbart News reached out to Hillary Clinton's campaign spokesperson Nick Merrill for a statement responding to the Trump campaign's list of allegations presented in its Friday press release, but did not receive a response. 62. Hillary Clinton was deemed the winner of Monday night's debate by 62% of voters who tuned in to watch, while just 27% said they thought Donald Trump had the better night, according to a CNN/Ork poll of voters who watched the debate. I could go on and on about this. Don't get me wrong here, I don't think Trump is the man for the job. And I think Hillary Clinton will win. If you vote, vote wisely. I leave you with a quote from Mark Twain in the hopes I had made you think a little. Look at the tyranny of party, at what is called party allegiance, party loyalty, a snare invented by designing men for selfish purposes and which turns voters into chattels, slaves, rabbits, and all the while their masters, and they themselves are shouting rubbish about liberty, independence, freedom of opinion, freedom of speech, honestly unconscious of the fantastic contradiction, and forgetting or ignoring that their fathers and the churches shouted the same blasphemies a generation earlier when they were closing their doors against the hunted slave, beating his handful of humane defenders with Bible texts and bullies, and pocketing the insults and licking the shoes of his southern master. The character of man. I dwell in time, darkness, and insanity, drunkenness and obsession of death is my curse. Stay paranoid, my friends. From his conclusion, he calculated that it would reappear in 1758. Hawley died before he was able to see his prediction come true. As reliable as ever, the comet appeared late that year and reached perihelion when it emerged from the far side of the Sun in 1759. The comet was named Halley's Comet in honor of the man who had discovered its pattern. Because of its orbit, Halley's Comet always shows up around every 76 years, just as Hawley calculated. However, due to the gravitational pull of the planets that it passes, it's sometimes a year or two off the mark. The comet has, in fact, Arikins, then tells of his time apprenticing on the river cruisers. With this work the reader learns about one of the author's most foundational experiences, as navigator, which denotes Twain's very style of storytelling, an exploration of the expanding world all around him. In 1909, Clemens, known by his pen name, Mark Twain, said, "I came in with Halley's Comet in 1835. It is coming again next year, and I expect to go out with it. It will be the greatest disappointment of my life if I don't go out with Halley's Comet. The Almighty has said, no doubt, now here are these two unaccountable freaks, they came in together, they must go out together." Clemens was indeed born just after Halley's Comet appeared in 1835, and he died of a heart attack one day after it appeared at its brightest in 1910. While this association, combined with Clemens' foretelling of his own death, is probably unique, Halley's Comet has been the subject of a string of predictions since 1705. That was the year that Sir Edmund Halley first realized that comets sighted in 1531, 1607, and 1682 were all the same comet. In his A Synopsis of the Astronomy of Comets, Halley stated that the comets all appeared very similar in their orbit and various other parameters. Mark Twain has touched and affected many of our lives in countless ways. Before we jump into Mark Twain's last great revelation, you need to know a few things about him and the thing that brought him to us and took him away. Perhaps the US most famous author, Mark Twain is known in history for his whimsical tales that reveal the heart of Middle America. His novels, The Adventures of Tom Sawyer and Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, are amongst the best American texts ever written, hailed for the quality of their characters and the larger social criticisms deftly woven into the fibers of the tale. To understand Mark Twain as an author, it is first required to understand him as a man. His experience with the Mississippi River provides a substantial amount of biographical information, chronicling his time as a steamboat pilot in his youth. Here, Samuel Clemens devised his pen name, Mark Twain, being the oft-heard call of the ship's leadsman, signaling that the water below was at least 12 feet deep and safe to cross. His memoir, Life on the Mississippi, first gives a history of the river as explored by Europeans and Americans.